Joined by Mike Yates with Atlantic Bay Mortgage, Sheena Josiah. Did I pronounce that right?
Josiah.
Josiah from our real estate team, and Robert Johnson. I'm pretty sure I got that one right. I don't think I got the easiest one. Yeah. And I'm Andrew Duncan, your host. And so we wanted to start off the show today with an article from the Realtor.com blog we saw. This is 5 surprising questions you'd never think to ask a real estate agent, but really should. And we're actually going to ask them ourselves and then answer them for you, just so you know. So the very first one is, who has been your most challenging client, and how did you handle it? So,
gosh, that feels like a job interview question.
I know, right? It is. So I would say, thinking back to some of our challenging clients, I would say the challenging clients are ones that have something, really, really unique to sell, like a home that just has, features that are unique to the marketplace, not something common, because that presents its own challenge in terms of evaluation, but it also in terms of finding the right buyer for it. I would also say that challenging clients would be family members. Anytime you work with friends or family, that adds an extra element to it, because there's an extra element of relationship there to where you really want to make sure to help them, but also to where they have more access to you than another customer. But so if I thought back to some of our most challenging clients, it would probably be those unique properties, to sell.
I actually think a challenging type of client is an agent, or a client who used to be an agent a while ago, like 10, 15 years ago.
And now things are different.
And now things are very, very, very
different.
They
want you to whip out the MLS book.
Yeah, well, they haven't been
binder.
They haven't been in the business a very long time, but they also think they know a lot about what's going on, and they do have some knowledge, but it's challenging to explain to that type of client how things are different and how you can get them the most money doing it a different way.
And our team gets so tired of me with sports analogies, but I use them like all the time. So I use that a lot with customers. I'll use a sports analogy in that type of situation where, let's say it's somebody that is, that follows basketball. I would say, if you're playing the game today, who would you go to for the winning shot? Would you go to LeBron James, or would you go to 68-year-old Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Pretty sure that Kareem is not the guy to take the shot anymore. He was back in the day, but today it's LeBron James, and that's me for real estate. So although that sounds kind of arrogant, maybe draw back. I like to be Steph Curry more than LeBron James. So let me just I'll make that point clear. But I think the purpose is you want them to know that you're a great real estate agent, and you're up to date, and you're in the know now. And you can do the same thing with doctors or actors, or you can make it a someone they know. When you make it personal for them, it's more likely to stick and be memorable. So those would be a couple of the ways that we have handled. What about you, Yates? Anything you can?
Well, I was actually going to piggyback on what Robert said, that I see a lot or hear about is, the person who may have a family member that's an active realtor now, but out of state. And they're advising them what to do here.
Be different.
Right, and the markets can be different too. Grant with the team, he was telling me one time he had a client, and the guy's mom was a realtor up north, and she kept telling him to basically lowball every single offer, and it just rejected, and that's how it worked there, but it doesn't work here.
Well, I mean, there's so much difference with it. I have some friends in Massachusetts, and I was reading up on some of their real estate laws. I could not believe how different it was as far as even the contract process. So I said, you know what, I have no idea what you do in this situation. Ask your agent. So I mean, it was just that much different, and I do think that that's challenging.
Yeah, Sheena, anything you can think of where you've come across something similar or different than what we talked about, challenging, maybe how you overcame it?
Yeah, I definitely had a buyer who was selling his home from out of state and relocating to Florida. So he basically had a realtor there that would kind of, talk to him about certain policies or laws, and it was a little difficult because it was a different state.
Those contingency ones are always kind of challenging too, because they're attempting to do more than one thing at once. And in many instances, that home's being sold by another agent out of the area, out of state, and you're kind of at the mercy of that actually happening. That has to happen for them to be able to help you buy. And then during their whole time of searching, there's all the ups and downs of the roller coaster of them listing and selling their home.
It's tough on the mortgage side on those too, because we have to have evidence that the house is sold, and we can move our process along with getting like preliminary preliminary closing numbers, but it seems like a lot of places out of state, particularly the ones that require attorneys for closing, like they don't get it. Like, we don't provide that. You don't provide your seller with an estimate of what their costs are going to be.
Right.
Well, no, we give it to them at closing, and it's challenging to overcome that.
So next question, if you were looking to buy a place, where would you move and why? This is a tricky one because, you know, the challenge is that you might have completely drastically different taste than your buyer. You know, you could say, you know what, I want to be in Seminole Heights because I want to be able to walk to this or walk to that, or I want to be in downtown because I'm a hockey fan, or, you know, and they may not like that at all. So what if you talk about an area or things that you like and they don't like those things? And, you know, so when I saw this question, I was like, you know, that's probably, I don't know that question should be there.
I think that some people think that if they like the same thing as their agent, maybe their agent can
relate to them.
Relate them, point to them in the right direction. But I just think that that is always a tricky one because, especially in our area, I mean, you could go from the beach to the suburbs to downtown. I mean,
there's so much variety here.
But just because you don't desire it doesn't mean that you can't be an expert in it.
Right.
You know?
I would almost say, like, if you were giving me advice about where to buy a place, where would you recommend I buy and why? You know, I think that's a better version of the question because, again, the budget could be completely different. You know, you could have an agent with, you know, that's been an agent for a long time, makes a great income, has 3 kids, helping a single buyer. You're not going to pick the same places. You know, that person may say, hey, I want to live in Carrollwood, and, you know, this single person probably wants to live, you know, somewhere else, you know. So another one, how can you help me narrow down my choices and fit house hunting into my busy schedule? So I think that one, to me, as far as narrowing down the choices, I would say, you know, look, you're gonna give me a checklist, and I'm gonna go through that checklist, and I'm gonna find homes that, you know, check as many of those boxes as possible. And if not, then it's not gonna be, you know, on the list, you know, because certainly you do know what you want, right, Mr. Buyer?
I would actually love a buyer like that because I think a lot of times, and Sheena can probably back me up, people want to be so involved, and that's kind of the way buyers are now. Since they have all the information, they can be over involved, and a lot of times they don't even realize what they want, but because we work with so many people, we sometimes can pick up on what they want better than they can. So
yeah,
I would love a buyer that just lets me do all the groundwork and can go out and just find them something. I mean, Sheena, I'm sure you have that experience.
Oh yeah, I've had buyers who give me a list, which I love the list, but then even showing different properties, like they actually learn that there may be different things that they want to add to the list or take away. So it's just important to listen to them and, you know, check the list, but also make sure that they don't, you know, veer from or have a hard time, you know.
And I think that the other part of this question is fitting it into their busy schedule. They want to make sure that you're available. They want to know that you're available evenings and weekends, and that you don't have a lot of schedule restrictions, and that you're full time. You know, let's face it. Right now, you know, there are gobs and gobs. I mean, I could go on a whole show rant about how many part-time agents are out there that are, you know, working the cash register line at Publix, and then during their breaks, you know, doing the real estate deals. You know, and so. That question to me is the customer wanting to make sure that you're full time.
I'm sure you guys have heard this, and it happens probably more than it should. But I just had a closing a couple weeks ago, and the list agent, not going to say names where they work, anything,
sure,
but would not answer phone calls after 5, and does not work on the weekends. Like I don't see how you could ever get business that way.
It's a hard business to be in if you're
Yeah,
not
I mean that's like the peak times normally, you
right?
know, because most people buying houses.
They must work in the evenings at another job.
Yeah,
they're bartending and
I don't get
they're
it.
bartending and getting wasted on the weekend.
Right.
Well, I think the first question I would ask somebody that said that is, well, what is your schedule like? You know, let's figure out a way we can work together to get out there.
No doubt. So next question, what are some ways to make my offer more attractive besides just increasing the price? We've covered this many times, you know, a letter or a video, you know, to the customer, to the seller, higher escrow deposit, shorter contingency periods. I mean, there's all kinds of things that
Closing quicker.
Closing quicker.
Depends on what the seller's motivation is.
Stronger mortgage pre-qual.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are tons of things you can do there. And then last, how do you help buyers come to a decision? This part for me is hard because what I would say is, you know, I'm basically gonna, you know, punch you in the face until you decide, because I don't have the patience to sit here and wait for you all day to make a decision. So hurry it now. I'm kidding. The reality is, it's why I'm not a buyer agent anymore. I don't have that patience that a lot of our agents do, and that they need to have. But I think this is where you make sure to let them know, you know, look, I'm here to give you consultative advice, you know, you know, I'm helping you come to your decision. It's not my decision, but I'm going to point out all the pros and all the cons, you know, and help you evaluate it to decide is now the right time, and you know, and looking at things from a different angle. You know, if they're deciding to move forward or not to move forward, then play devil's advocate and give them some other options so that they're at least well informed.
I think right now the market still helps dictate that too. With you know, if you set the expectation up front and the urgency, you know, if you find a house, you got to act quick,
Sure.
And it might not happen because somebody else is going to get it. So that sometimes takes care of itself. That buyer might see like, oh, I didn't act fast enough 3 times in a row. You know, I need to be ready to go when I find the next one.
I think another thing that we do is we want to tie that process together. So at the very beginning, we're going to sit with them, we're going to go over their needs, we're going to go over all their goals and their objectives, and we need to tie that back in at the end when it comes time to sign on the line, you know, and buy the house. You need to say, hey, look, you know, these were all the things that you said you wanted. Here's the paper we filled out. Here's what you said you wanted. It checks off all those boxes. You know, it is that goal. I know this can be a little bit scary for you. It's a big step. You know, but here's all the pros. It fits what we wanted. Here's all the benefits that you're going to get from this. Just to remind them that, you know, there was a reason they initially, you know, schlepped out to look at houses and jump in a car and ride around town for, you know, days or hours or weeks. There's a reason they started that process, and reminding them of that reason, whether it's their kids, whether it's, you know, wanting to improve their financial situation, whether it's, you know, no matter what it is, reminding them of that, because people will forget that when the stress of going through the process, you know, shows up. So we're going to be